Every year, Ben comes up with some great stuff for brackets to go against March Madness.
I'm trying to think of in the years. So we did fictional athlete.
Right.
I remember Benny the Jet from The Sandlot was a big Final Four, but I don't know if he was the winner or not. May have been Air Bud. No, Air Bud
Probably
didn't get out of the first round. He didn't get out of the first round. And we did fictional team, I do believe. We had some fictional teams. We did best sports movie. That was one of our first.
Yeah, best sports movie always does well.
And I do think Sandlot ended up winning that.
It did.
And I remember correctly that they didn't know they were doing this for us, but the Yard Goats played Sandlot on the Jumbotron that year because they were the best sports movie of the bracket. Now, a lot of radio shows across the country do this, and they, don't put as much thought in the bracket as the Rob Dibble Show. So this year, I think it was hanging out at Chick-fil-A in Southington about 2 months ago at the passing of Mike Leach, where we just kind of had a memorial of sorts of great Mike Leach rants. And then the idea sparked from all of us like, man, there's some great ones over the years that just need to be revisited. And a lot of people just don't take the time to watch old Bobby Knight yell at some kids or old Mike Ditka yell at some reporters.
Or Herm Edwards.
Or Herm Edwards going crazy for being a Jets coach.
Play to win the game.
That will never die.
No.
Hello?
That will never die. Mike Gundy's I'm 40 will never die. I think those kind of moments for coaches, even though they don't want to admit it, that's how they get immortalized.
Playoffs?
Thanks. Now, we're trying to...
Talking about playoffs?
I don't know how many we should have here, but...
I like Dennis Green's, man. We are who we thought they were.
Jim Mora won.
Right.
The hello from Herm and Jim Mora's playoff.
Playoffs?
Hello, playoffs. You should start
make
doing
a mashup. Yeah.
Can you do a mixtape?
I got them on different pages right now.
Okay.
I'm not organized.
All right.
Oh, man.
Well, we're trying to get organized for this big bracket, and we need some submissions from the listeners. You can always give us a call, 860-522-3776, 522-ESPN, of what is the best sports rant of all time. I don't know how many we're going to have. We like to have even numbers when you're talking brackets.
32 usually.
32 is a sweet
we might
spot.
get up to 64.
Now, it depends on the rants. Sometimes when we do 64, we get like 48 great ones. And then when the rest, we're just really stretching.
They get knocked out in the first round.
They're happy to be in the bracket,
That's right.
but they're really
happy
not
to
worthy.
be in the final 64.
But they are who they thought they were.
They are who we
Exactly
thought they were. Correct. Some of these quotes are just life lessons for all time. Now, we have got some. Young John put together a Google Doc of some that he found last night when he was doing the women's basketball game here in the studio. There's some on that list I want to go over, but there were 4 that I picked out from that list that I think are no-brainers, and I want your guys' opinion on this. These are no-brainers, have to be in our rant bracket here in a couple of weeks. The first one we'll play is from the beloved Jim Calhoun. Now, this rant has been so big, there's a Twitter feed called Not a Dime Back. And it is,
Really?
I'm pretty sure it's like kind of a funny thread on just UConn sports in general. But it might just be some Coach Calhoun sightings in there. I don't really, run around Twitter as much as I used to and see what they're doing. But I just know that this rant still lives in my heart. I remember seeing it when it happened. I remember that this was I want to say it was a student reporter, but I don't think it was from UConn. I think it was a student reporter somewhere else that was trying to make the case that Coach Calhoun needs to donate his salary back to the university because the university is losing money and it's publicly funded. Go ahead and play Not a Dime Back, Coach Calhoun.
Coach, considering that you're the highest paid state employee and there's a $2 billion budget deficit,
Yep.
do you think that...
Not a dime back.
Not a dime back.
Not a dime back. I'd like to be retired someday. I'm getting tired.
1.6 million is enough?
I'm sorry?
1.5 million?
I make a lot more than that.
You do?
Yeah.
What's the... what's your,
What was the take tonight?
I don't know. What's the deal with Comcast for it?
You're not really that stupid, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
No, I
My best advice to you,
Yeah.
Shut up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's very polite of you.
No, it wasn't playing. I like it. You shut up. This is if you want to talk to me outside, I'm more than happy to talk to you. We're talking about
If these
basketball.
guys covered this stuff, I wouldn't have to do it.
Will you please?
Listen to the other reporters.
Quite frankly, we bring in $12 million to the university. Nothing to do with state funds. We make $12 million a year for this university. Get some facts and come back and see me. Get some facts and come back and see me. Don't throw out salaries or other things. Get some facts and come back and see me. We turn over $12 million to the University of Connecticut, which is state-run. Next question.
Oh, I love that.
He's
Great dismount,
beautiful.
too. Next question. The check your facts line is still in my repertoire to this day. Like, I love telling people to check your facts and get back to me.
Shut up is the best for me. My best advice to you.
Now, just speaking for Coach Calhoun, I think if he is listening to the show today, he's very upset with us. He does not.
No, he shouldn't be.
He doesn't like that. He apologized for it. I don't think he should have. I loved everything he said. But
it's a political question that was thrown at a college basketball coach. It was totally unfair.
And he
to
didn't
throw
have
that
his
Jim,
facts.
Jim Calhoun. Exactly.
Yeah,
Calhoun.
And I'm
press
reading
corps.
the story that goes along with it. This guy tried to talk about the state's fiscal budget deficit at that time, which was about $1 billion. It was up to almost $8 billion over the last couple of years.
If
So
I remember, this is
he
08.
has nothing to do with the state taxes and all the other stuff.
And this
He's
is
an employee.
2008 when the market crashes and states are known to be default on loans, right? So this is all going on politically in the world. Now, is Dom Amore part of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And every other good reporter that was on the job back then that probably should have punched that kid's lights out.
When Dom comes back, we got to ask him about this
Absolutely.
moment. I know he was in that room.
Nobody here is going to ask that because nobody's asinine enough to make that case that someone that works for a state university, but he's not really a state employee, you moron. I mean, it's different if it's the governor, or it's a politician or someone like that actually is involved in, the monetary values of running a state.
Right.
Jim Calhoun has nothing to do with that.
Now, he's hired to do a job. He is paid by the public.
And did it very well.
But the facts remain that if you don't have that UConn men's basketball team, you don't get a lot of millions that come in to the state off the top. What's the take tonight? What was
Not
the
a
take?
dime back is all we want to know, though.
Check your facts.
Not a dime back. I
Check
love
your
it, though.
facts.
He was ready for it.
I got that down as a number 1 seed right now.
That's definitely a number 1 seed.
Really? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, stick with college basketball. Stick in the local area. I remember this one. I was a youngster, a very young guy, and I knew who John Chaney was. I knew Temple basketball a lot better than I do now. And John Chaney, to me, was a tough you-know-what. A
tough cookie.
I thought when it came to, tough coaches, for me, Bobby Knight's at the top of the pile, and John Chaney's not that far off. Now, I did not know who Coach John Calipari was when he was coaching Marcus Camby at UMass. Did not know this guy until this moment. There's a press conference after the game. I'm guessing this is UMass Temple. I
watched the game. It was a very fiery game, and there's a lot of physicality during the game to where the coaches were actually going after each other on the sideline.
Post-game presser, Calipari's at the podium. It's his time to talk to the press. Usually, these coaches are nowhere to be found together after games. Now, making his way to the press room was Mr. John Chaney, and he just basically starts the exchange.
I just got my ass blasted for giving them hell down in West Virginia. Hell of a job right here today. Good job. 3 class guys. And you pick them out here and single them out. You can't get that young nigga threaten the guy. Shut up, guys. You can't get that threaten the guy.
We're getting held away from each other right now.
You remember that. When I see you, I'm going to kick your ass. Kick your ass. Come on. You got a good team, and you don't need that edge. That's why I was telling my kid to knock your kid in the mouth. Standing there pushing him the game.
Some things never cease to amaze.
Oh, I got cut off at the end. Some things never cease to amaze me is how Calipari ended that.
So it would be years later that he would be suspended for the Atlantic 10 tournament for calling out a goon to go break some guy's arm, right?
Yeah, there's that. I just will never forget. I'm going to kick your ass.
Yep. First he said, I'm going to kill you.
Yes.
First he dropped, I'm going to kill you. Can't forget that part.
Now,
That's when it was real.
it's a
Now
little different. It's
it
not
just got
like
real.
a rant. It's just like really
was great.
a fight, more or less. Like a, it's
Well, it's
kind of like a Dibble versus a Pinella kind of
absolutely.
situation.
And I bet they're friends now. I mean,
I bet they are.
The
R.I.P.
heat of the
Cheney
moment
Buck.
is very difficult because sometimes it's hard to process your emotions. And John, I'll never forget seeing the video of it the first time.
Yeah, it's a great
I'm
video.
like, wow, look at him. He's like a lion stalking his prey. And he just made his way up the side, and nobody stopped him. Security.
It's just like when you know, no offense.
I got John
Cheney's
Cheney
an
in
older,
that, by the way.
Really?
Absolutely.
Really?
At that moment, Calipari's not mad.
No, but he's significantly younger. I mean,
Watch out for the old
not
lion,
as
man.
crafty,
Yeah,
right?
watch
Not
out.
as
That's
crafty.
exactly right.
Yeah, but he'd be a grizzled old
Yeah,
chicken bone
that's
that's
right.
really hard to gnaw on, man.
I don't know, man. You get into fights, it's always about endurance. If it lasts longer than a minute, I'm with you guys. John Cheney's kicking it. That one needs a little bit more video, though, to be as funny as it should
again,
be.
Some of the stuff we got to get the video, put it online.
I think
A
that's
classic nonetheless, though.
I think it's an 8-9. I think it's hovering right there in the middle. Yeah, classic. I think it should be in the field, but we'll see where
right,
it falls.
that's not a top seed.
Yeah, I'm not putting it as a top seed. Maybe this one will be another one that needs a little bit more video to go along with the audio because there are some bleeding reporters that come out of this
This is
press conference
fantastic.
rant. But this is one of the best baseball rants ever. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Hal McRae.
I didn't want to get myself into a situation where all I had to go after him was all right, and our lefts were swinging the bats well, so I wanted my left-handed hitters to hit.
Did you consider Brett for Miller with the bases loaded in the seventh?
No, don't ask me all these stupid-ass questions. No. In the... God, all these stupid-ass questions every night. Finally, I hit Brett for Miller. Miller started the game. He's playing against left-handed pitchers. Brett is not playing against left-handed pitchers. Why the I bat for Miller? You think I'm a damn fool? I'm tired of all these ass questions every night. And stay out here asking all these dumb ass questions. Stupid. Suckers. Ask me that stupid ass shit every night. Stupid ass I'm not taking no shit off. You guys are not taking no shit off the players. I'm sick and tired. I'm fed up with everything. No shit from you guys, no shit from you players. And they can do any thing they want to do. I'm sick and tired of all this bullshit. Now, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
That's a great dismount. Put that in your
put
pipe
that in
and
your
smoke
pipe and
it.
smoke it.
Oh, I remember that one.
So, Hal McRae, Royals, right? We're talking Royals.
Oh, yeah. He's the manager of the Royals, but this guy is an all-star player. He was with the Reds back in the day. He played with the Royals as well, so he won 2 different world championships.
Position?
So
Yeah, what position is McRae?
can't remember.
I know his son's an outfielder.
yeah, I think he was an outfielder. Yeah, he was a designated hitter mostly and an outfielder.
Okay. Now, the video is even more precious just because Hal has his jersey top off. So, and he's got
one of those tired-looking undershirts on, but you know,
and
that's the way
old
ball
man
players
baseball
dress.
coach gut going on
Absolutely.
right now.
Absolutely.
And also, when he gets upset with the questions, he starts throwing everything. Like everybody's got their little recorder, and back then the recorders were monstrous.
Yeah.
Like they got big tape recorders. He's throwing them, and then he takes a phone that had to have been his phone, or at least the phone on
it's
the
his
desk.
phone on his desk, and he rips it out of the wall and tosses it. And I think the handset hits one of the reporters in the face and cuts him.
He's bleeding as he leaves the room, bleeding down his forehead.
Like, whoop, I got my headline.
But the beautiful thing about the throw was he does like a discus throw, like he does a complete 360 as he throws the phone into the wall. But the dismount of put that in your pipe and smoke it, that's just classic. Classic baseball, right? That's baseball.
And again, now we see managers that don't act like that and really don't tell you anything after the game.
Right. It's no fun. It's boring.
Yeah, they're more in front of the camera to just represent the organization instead of giving you an honest opinion of a stupid question.
White House press secretary is basically the job.
Yeah, Manfred wants more action. I want more Hal McRae. More crazy.
Oh God, absolutely.
Crazy's more fun,
Lou
man.
Piniella was the best, and this was after he left the Reds. He was fantastic with the Mariners. By the time he got to the Cubs, he was a grizzled old man. He was a veteran at the press conferences.
Yeah.
And remember, as a Cub manager, he's like, "I'm not going to make excuses for these guys. You go in there and you talk to them." I mean, he used that line on me a couple times, but it really wasn't in the press conference. That was just off the cuff stuff. Mm-hmm. But once now he knew, and I had a bit. I remember I was already retired. I interviewed Lou in spring training in Arizona, and he said, "Dude, I'm a PR person. This is the late '90s. Look at him now. I mean,
I know.
25 years ago.
We say that all the time,
and it's
especially
sad
Boone.
because you can't get the human element anymore because you're not allowed to."
But I think baseball with the 162 and all the old school reporters that have been covering it for 150, it'd be daunting for anyone, even if you're 162-0. Like, I got to answer a stupid question again. Like, again, we got a game tomorrow. Like,
Right.
we got a whole nother one of these again. I got to do one before the game. I got to do one after the game. Now I'm getting interviewed in the 7th. I'm like, geez, man. I got feel for Hal. I'm on Hal McRae's side on this one.
I love Hal.
Love Hal McRae. All right. I see your Hal McRae. I'll put it at like a 3-4-5, but I will raise you one of the GOATs of sports rants, Tommy Lasorda. Now, set this one up because you probably know it a little bit better.
Which one is this?
This is the Bavacqua.
Oh, Kurt Bavacqua?
Kurt Bavacqua apparently is mad about the situation you know a lot about where the Padres are playing the Dodgers.
Yep.
Were they rivals as much
They
back
were
then?
big-time rivals.
Okay.
We were in the same division.
So
the Reds were a rival, the Astros were a rival, and this is crazy, the Braves. We were all in the same division of the West.
Someone asks about somebody on the Padres gets hit, and they think it's a retaliation thing from the Dodgers. That was ordered by Tommy Lasorda. Kurt Bavacqua was asked in a press conference of who he thinks or what he thinks
ordered the hit
of the pitcher. And he said, don't ask the pitcher. Ask the guy who actually ordered the hit. And this is the end of the quote. It's probably that fat little Italian. Now, the fat little, I think he could have done everything else, but adding the fat little Italian and printed in the newspaper. This was Tommy Lasorda's rebuttal.
Tell you what I think about it. I think that is very, very bad for that man to make an accusation like that. That is terrible. I have never, ever, since I've managed, ever told a pitcher to throw at anybody, nor will I ever. And if I ever did, I certainly wouldn't make him throw at a 130 hitter like LaFay or Bavacqua, who could hit water if he fell out of a boat. And I guarantee you this, when I pitched, and I was going to pitch against a team that had guys on it like Bavacqua, I sent a limousine to get the sucker to make sure he was in the motherfucking lineup because I kicked that sucker's ass any day in a week. He's a motherfucking big mouth, I'll tell you that.
So here's the line, though.
I'm sweating.
The line is later on, Bavacqua had been hitting 230.
Okay.
So someone should have went back to him and gotten another follow-up, and he probably would have gone even more bananas. But no, that's Tommy. It's the same with Dave Kingman question after he hit like 3 home runs one game. It's the same thing with the Reggie Jackson putting his hip into it in 77. Tommy's going to give you an honest opinion answer. That's what I miss from managers being so buttoned up now, that they're not allowed to answer like that. But that was because, first of all, back then, too, you trusted the reporters. They weren't going to burn you. And, the guys were there every day. And if they wrote an article that was scathing of you, they showed up at your locker. I respected the guys like that. Hal McCoy, who's a Hall of Fame writer from the Dayton Daily News, every day come up to my locker. Sometimes he ripped me. He's like, listen, I know you probably don't like that article, but this is why I wrote it. And I'll be honest with you now, I respected him for that. I can't get mad at you when you come up to me like a man and say, listen, that's my job. It's business. That's my job. And I can't get mad at you for that. So I think Tommy treated those guys that way. They treated Tommy that way. All of the managers back then, it could be Earl Weaver, it could be Bobby Cox. My God, Bobby Cox was thrown out of like 300 games. You know, I mean, probably 300 times you probably had to answer the same questions. I guarantee Bobby Cox snapped every now and then. He was a very fiery guy. And, some of his off the field stuff. So with Tommy was kind of like hold court, though. Tommy was a different cat. I remember we did a golf tournament for the major leagues, and it was out in Arizona, and Tommy just sat down like he owned the whole place. But that's the way he was. He did take over a room.
Well, I think, too, you always say this, just as much as the job of the manager is to give you nothing, but it's also to protect your guys.
Absolutely. He totally protected his team.
And you see that in a couple of the clips. And you're right. There's a couple more Lasordas that are going to make the mix of 32 or 64 that we put in.
And should. I honestly think the Kingman is better than the Bavacqua.
That's what Kurt says as well, yeah.
Because he
I don't know. There's
Kingman.
a string of bleeps in there that's pretty good.
They're both Bavacqua and Kingman. But even the Reggie Jackson one's actually during the game.
Right.
You have to get the audio
All right,
from the game
Jackson.
where he's yelling at the umpire.
King, Jackson, Bavacqua.
Yep.
Okay.
Kingman. Dave Kingman.
We got to go to break, but I got, Mike Leach, Bob Knight. We got some Gundy. We got some Ditka. We've got a bunch of people, but if you got any submissions for us, Rob Dibble Show at iHeartMedia.com.
I'm going to hunt through some John Tortorella for represent some hockey.
We got to get all the sports
hockey.
involved
Well,
in
get
there.
some little NASCAR flavor.
Gotta
I know
be
some
some
NASCAR flavor in there.
Yarborough and the guy he fought, I'm sure there were some good quotes back then. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk some spring training MLB next.